Out of Meyer on the pick and roll. By Wade. This is good if it goes. Yes! Oh! He to
Hey guys, welcome back to the Boozers Basketball Podcast. This is our second episode. Just had two fun, exciting games, two game sevens that we just witnessed. So there's a lot to talk about. So wanted to first, before we get started, talk about our predictions from the last podcast, which was yesterday. I believe Panos correctly selected the Boston Celtics to beat the Milwaukee Bucks. And they did. The score is 109 to 81. And Neil, I believe you selected the Bucks, if I remember correctly.
I did.
Okay. And I didn't make a selection because it kind of turned into more of who would I rather play as a Heat fan, instead of actually selecting who I thought was going to win. And so I said I'd rather play the Bucks, was my answer yesterday. But I think in my mind, I was on the same page as Neil. I thought that Giannis was going to get enough of those superstar calls, 10 plus free throws, and just have some support from his teammates. And he's going to put up like 30 and 20 and like 10, like a monster triple double, to get back to the Eastern Conference Finals. But yeah, I would have been wrong as well. So Panos, what do you think the Celtics did good tonight to get that dub?
Well, I wouldn't say they did anything defensively in the first half towards the Bucks, because I think the Bucks started off pretty well, but they had that third star show up in Grant Williams, so it really helped, especially towards the second half. He showed up even more, knocked down a couple good threes, made some good defensive stops. But I think that third star was the key in there, because if you look at the Bucks, it was just Giannis, right? And in the first quarter, you had Lopez, who was going off, and he was starting pretty well. But in the second half, he only scored 2 points. Drew Holiday kind of showed up a bit, but he got in foul trouble. No one else really showed up for the Bucks other than Giannis. I think Giannis almost had a triple double, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was 1 assist away from having a triple double. But I think we all watched the game, right? I mean, the Celtics started off pretty poorly. I don't know if their defense on the perimeter was that well either. I mean, I think they just knocked down shots. I think their offense took over in that game, and the Bucks shot themselves out of the game.
3-point shooting was the key in this game. Bucks were 4 for 33 from 3-point range. Like, that's not going to cut it. And one thing I thought was interesting was Milwaukee's stubbornness in staying to their initial strategy, guarding the three. Once Grant Williams got cooking, you need to reevaluate what you're doing. They just insisted on packing the paint, and it just left Boston shooters wide open, and they hit 22 threes. If you're going to get outscored from the 3-point line 22-4, you have no chance of winning game. And it was just interesting to see Milwaukee stick to the strategy when it wasn't working. Once Boston started extending the lead in the third quarter, Milwaukee didn't make an adjustment. They stuck to what got them here. And in a game 7, you need to throw everything out there. You need to try new things. You need to be willing to experiment. And on Milwaukee's side, they could not make any shots. 4 for 33 is not going to get it done.
Yeah.
Why do you think they were packing the paint? So
who? The Bucks?
The Bucks. Was Jaylen Brown and Tatum a big threat when it came to breaking down the defender and penetrating? Because I feel like they typically like to shoot a ton of threes anyway, just as a team, right? So
yeah,
why do they stick to that? Why do you think they were sticking to that strategy, Neil? Who are they trying to stop initially? Because
I just think that's Milwaukee's strategy the whole season. In the regular season, they used that strategy. It worked for them, and they weren't going to let Tatum and Brown go off. But in so doing that strategy, they let one of the role players get going, and he just wasn't going to miss shots today. So in theory, it's a good practice, right? You want to make someone who hasn't demonstrated an ability to perform at this level beat you, but he did. And you got to give Grant Williams credit for that, because he could have easily, I mean, he took 18 threes himself. That's a ridiculous number, but he hit 7 of them. And that's a pretty big performance in a big situation.
I think he might have taken more threes in this game than the entire series.
Grant Williams.
I might be close. I swear it might be like in the first 6 games he shot 20 threes or like 16 threes, somewhere in that like 16 to 20 range. Because I know like one game he was 1 for 2, one game he was like 4 for 7 or 8.
Oh,
One
wow.
game he didn't shoot really well, but he shot 8. When I
He
saw
shot
that,
18.
he shot 18 threes in a game. Like that, I'm like, is that Kyle Korver or like who is this?
Wow.
Like this?
I didn't even
like
realize that.
it was insane to me. I'm like, I didn't watch every second of the game, right? So I know he shot, I know he put up a lot, but I couldn't believe I saw that he shot 18 and he made what, 7
Yeah.
of 18?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was the X factor again. And I think Panos, you talked about that a little bit yesterday, saying that not only has he been stepping up defensively, but he's been hitting some shots. And again, the Bucks shot 12% from 3, right?
see
Neil said they made 4 out of 33. The Celtics made like 20 out of 55 and shot 40%. And
Yeah, they shot. Yeah.
and it was the 58-point difference, that delta with that 3-point gap that won on the game, because the Bucks had more rebounds. It was like 58 to 46. You usually win, any team that typically has like a double digit advantage in rebounds, wins the game.
They usually win the game.
I feel like they win the game like 70 to 80% of the time, right?
And you could see Giannis start to kind of get tired in the second half. He was missing some bunnies. I just think the accumulation of a physical series started getting to him. And he just needed this. This was the first game where I really saw the Bucks missing Chris Middleton. Just no one stepped up at all. And this would have been the kind of game where you really, really could have leaned on Chris. And it just wasn't there for them when they needed it. Like Drew Holiday would be a great third option offensively.
Yeah.
But in this game, with everything on the line, you need that number 2 scorer, and there was just no one there.
Yeah, I mean, Grayson Allen was 0 for 6, 0 for 4 from 3. You had Matthews, who was 1 for 5, who shouldn't be starting, by the way. And then, Portis, who didn't play well. I mean, Connaughton, is that his name? I can't even say his fucking name.
Pat Connaughton.
Yeah, like he went 1 for 6. I mean, no one showed up. And like you saw after they subbed out Giannis, did you see how exhausted he was on the bench?
Yeah.
He looked beat. Like 7 games, and he really tried his heart out for his like game 6 to close it out. But that was just rough. I don't know. But now it's like they're going to go play the Heat with the Celtics, right? They only get a 1-day rest before they can do anything.
Yep. And here's another funny stat now, just to stay on track with the shooters you just mentioned for the Bucks.
Yeah.
So Giannis in the 7-game series was 7 for 28 from 3, which is pretty terrible. And it's 25%, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a win if Giannis is shooting a 3, right? Like you want to give him the 3. You don't want to give him like 10 feet. You know what I mean? Like you want to give him like 3 or 4 feet. Like, so it's still like you're daring him to shoot. And Grayson Allen, Brook Lopez, and Bobby Portis all below Giannis in terms of 3-point shooting percentage for the series. So Allen was 20% for the series. Brook Lopez was 7.5%.
I think he shot 1 for 14 or something.
1 for 13, and Bobby Portis was 22%. So that just shows you right there that the game was won not just because of the defensive scheme, but like also no one really showed up for Giannis, and of course he didn't have Chris Middleton, the second best player on the Bucks objectively. Obviously, their second best scorer. So it was just tough.
I felt like they kind of went away from the game plan, right? Because it was like you had Lopez and you had Giannis, and they were going off in the paint, right?
Yep.
They kind of went away from it in like the second half. I'm like, what's going on? And then they tried to match up with the Celtics and shoot the threes, and they just shot themselves out of the game. It was kind of weird. I mean, it was working. Like you didn't have to change anything.
Right. That reminds me of like whenever it's rare that I'll watch a Laker game because I hate the Lakers. I didn't really mention that yesterday, but that like my least favorite team in all of sports is the Lakers, aka the Fakers. And I give Panos a hard time about it, but he's a true loyal, like non-delusional Laker fan, so I give him a lot of credit. Um,
Exactly.
but like we talk about games, and I'm just like watching, and it's like before AD, was getting hurt more consistently with the Lakers because I feel like he was a little more durable his first year. I think he played like when I say more durable, I mean he played like 60 games, right?
Yeah.
Versus like 30 and 20.
It's all relative
Um,
with Anthony Davis.
but it's so funny the frustration panels because it's like we see AD and it's like post up, stop shooting threes, LeBron, stop like shooting these
Yeah.
terrible outside shots, like feed Anthony Davis like when he's doing well, and they got away from it. And Brooke Lopez did the same thing. Like in the first quarter, like he was making like his patented like back down hook shot, like when he was on the Brooklyn
On the Nets, that's right.
Nets,
Yeah.
and he was like averaging like 22 and 10, like was like an all-star, I think, once, but like he's developed now to like the stretch five, only shoots threes for the most part. But there's been a few games he did that, like in the bubble, I think, or even last year, where there's a couple games where you see him backing down, and they just completely got away from it, and just
Yeah.
kept shooting threes, and they kept missing. And it's just like, why are you still shooting threes at this point? And another thing I noticed too is like just a lot of fouls being called, right? So, Neil, what do you think about the refs' involvement? Like, did you think it was kind of even on both ends? I just felt like, I think maybe in the first half, it felt like the Bucks
Well,
were getting more
opening up the
calls.
game, you
Yeah.
had Giannis breaking down Grant Williams. I thought that was an offensive foul that they didn't call.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, they're going to let him play. But then as the game wore on, they called a lot of offensive fouls. I think Giannis was averaging like 2 offensive fouls a game in the series. I think it speaks to the nature of how physical this series was. But overall, if both teams are talking about the refs and complaining about the refs, maybe it's all equal in the end. I don't know how you guys want to approach that or what you guys think about that, but it hasn't been like great officiating, but I didn't really see it egregious on one side or the other.
What was the overall fouls? I want to look that up. So, because I didn't,
You mean fouls called in the entire game, like all the players?
just personal fouls like free throws. So it was 18 fouls on the
16.
Bucks.
It was 18 to 16. The Bucks had 18 free throw attempts. The Celtics had 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's not like a crazy. That's like
I
a
don't think
normal
like
amount.
the refs like impacted this game in a material way, but sometimes you're just like, why are you calling these touch fouls? Why are there so many offensive fouls on things that are kind of questionable? But I didn't see it egregious one way or the other.
I don't know. To me, like the fouls, like they might not be as impactful, but it's like the timing of the fouls on when it happens, I feel like sometimes kills the momentum for some teams. I don't know, Jeff Van Gundy like was mentioning, so that was the first 3-second violation called ever in this series, and the first one that was called on defense on Brooke Lopez, like literally the Celtics were down, but they weren't like too far down. It was like still in reach, but it killed the momentum of the Bucks, and the Celtics were able to get back in a little bit and get the game closer at the end of the first quarter. But I don't know. To me, it's like I still think it's bad officiating throughout these playoffs. And then I kind of agree with Amir mentioned earlier. Like he did say it favored the Bucks. I feel like it did a bit, but at the end it felt like it balanced out too. So
it's just really hard to be a ref for Giannis because he's going to impose his will on people. There's going to be contact, and he's a really imposing figure. So there's going to be a lot of ticky-tack fouls maybe,
and that's
like there was one play in particular with Jason Tatum. He was driving to the basket, and I think he elbowed Connaughton in the face.
Yeah.
And they called that like an offensive foul. And then the announcers were saying that Connaughton fouled him before the elbow.
Yeah, he did.
That's one play. So, but in a series like that, there's a lot of plays like that happening on every time you go down the floor. And it's just hard to be judicious about what you're calling and what you're not.
But see, something like that, it's like, it's like game 7, let them play a little bit. You know what I mean? It's we don't need to see the ticky-tack fouls called. Like, it's just, I felt it was a little frustrating with calls like that. I mean, for that example like that, it's like, that might as well just be a no call. Like, don't even call the foul. Just let it go.
Yeah, let it be just a
bucket.
Just a 2. Yeah, he had like that. He made the floater, right? So
yeah. I don't know,
that's
man.
like a wash. That's hard to like make that decision like in real time. That like, oh, like
yeah.
Connaughton or he got fouled by Connaughton first or whoever it was
And then they
before he
reviewed it
got
for a
elbowed.
flagrant. I'm like, that is definitely not a flagrant.
Yeah, it's just that's the other thing I hate too. It's like not every foul that's like close to the face, you don't have to review it. You know what I mean? It's like
That is an annoying part of
Yeah.
it's like you're
these
dragging out the
playoffs.
game. Didn't the third quarter feel like an hour? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it did. And I get the protect the players and like try to avoid contact to the face, but it's like it's not football. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it's not like they're slamming into each other like at 100 miles per hour like every single play, right? And like I get that. Protect the quarterback, like protect NFL players, right? Because CTE is huge. In football, it's a different sport. It's a brutal contact sport, right? And like I get you should protect the players, but like also like it's just it seems like games are so much longer because they have to check to see if like if anybody gets
Yeah.
like their eyebrow touched or eyelash touched, like that it could be a flagrant and they have to review it. And it does slow down momentum, but also the
That is
panels
an
point.
annoying aspect to the game.
Yeah. And the panels' point too, it's just like, isn't it the playoffs? Not like let alone a game seven. Like, can you like let some like calls go essentially like just like don't blow that whistle like so judiciously like it's just like the NBA is so soft. I've been complaining about this for the last few years and I will continuously and like I don't want it to go back to the 90s where you can like clothesline someone like Bill Lambier did on the Bad Boys or like you know like hand checking and just like using your arms right and like obstructing people from getting by you but like something closer to like maybe the 2000s and stuff where like you can like go chest to chest with someone, right? Or you can drive and like you can go shoulder to shoulder and bump into someone, right? Without the whistle being blown every single time. I mean, it just seems like you're not allowed to contact anybody. Like if someone beats you to the spot, right? Like you're trying to drive past someone, they beat you to the spot, right?
Yeah,
And
the
then you
block charge is
it's not even a block though. I mean, just like
it's a tough
the Grant
call.
Williams call, I think, against Giannis, right? Like there's like a play where Giannis was going baseline and Grant Williams kind of beat him to the spot, put his chest out, and they like kind of hit like softly, not like a big collision. And they called a foul on Williams. And it wasn't like a blocking foul, but like he beat him to the spot. Like the defender has a right to beat the offensive player to a spot, right? And then you could
Yep.
readjust, bounce back off of it. Like Giannis didn't lose the ball. He still had the ball yet they blow the whistle immediately and that like just slows down the game. So again,
I mean, in a physical series like we're about to get with Heat Celtics, I think we're just going to have to get used to it because we're going to be in the midst of another physical series, and I don't really see the mentality of the refs completely changing between now and then. So if they're calling those kind of fouls in this game, it sounds like it's going to happen in the next series.
Yeah.
I agree. I just think it's funny that you still call it a physical series because I just don't think basketball's physical at all anymore. Like
Yeah,
the
it's
amount
far
of
from
it
it.
is relative.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the 80s and the 90s anymore, but for
No.
this era of the NBA, that was a pretty physical series, I would say.
yeah, I mean we're not even talking about the 2000s. Again, I'm not going back to the Bad Boys. I'm like literally not even the 80s or 90s. Like it's not even like the 2000s. Like come on, there's like no contact allowed. It's just sucks. But I mean, it's also still fun. Obviously, you know, there's a lot of skilled players. They want to protect players, I guess, that they just the scores are a lot higher because they're shooting way more free throws and three pointers specifically, right? So I guess people like to see high scores. I feel like that's why there might not be a lot of soccer fans in the States because sometimes
Yeah.
games are 0-0 or 1-0 or and that's not exciting for some people. So I guess people like seeing high scores and all sorts of sports. So
Do you see Boston taking 53s a game against the Heat?
I don't know the average amount of threes they've taken all year, and let alone against the who do they play in the first round again? Slipped my mind.
The Nets.
Boston?
The Nets. The Nets. Yeah, I know they shot like 40 plus threes a game in this series. This was like at least the second time in this series alone in 7 games
Yeah, because
they shot 50
Milwaukee
plus.
kind of funnels you to that strategy. But I'm wondering if you think Miami will employ something similar, or will Boston try to use the paint more to their advantage now that they don't have to deal with Lopez and Giannis?
I think it'll be a combination. I guess they'll still shoot a lot of threes, but I don't think they'll shoot that many. One, we don't have a big shot blocking kind of center or power forward. Bam's only 6'9". He averages like one block a game. Like he's good at defense, but he's not known for statistically getting blocks like a Rudy Gobert. But we do remember one very famous block that he had against Jason Tatum in the bubble when he
That's
blocked
right.
that dunk
That's
to,
right.
to win that game. Bam's coming out before he got his max. But I think we have such a good perimeter defensive team. Like if Lowry comes back, for the first game or two, um, even at his age, at 35, he's still a pretty good, solid defender. Jimmy, obviously, Vincent, who's been playing really good, who's been pestering James Harden and specifically Trae Young. I just think we're really good on the perimeter. We could switch and get over screens really quickly to help. And also just the fact that, again, we're not that big of a team. I think that Tatum and Brown are going to take a lot more mid-range and try to drive to the hoop and draw some fouls because we don't have that size to deter them. So I think they'll shoot less. What
And
about you,
it's-
Panos?
Yeah, and I was
No.
just going to say that's going to prevent someone like Grant Williams from going off with 7 threes. That doesn't seem like a likely outcome of this strategy that Miami will use.
Just going off what Amir said, I agree with him. Like, it's like, I think it's gonna be a combination of both driving in, getting those mid-range jumpers up, and then driving to the hoop, and then some threes. But like you saw, like they shot a lot of threes with the Nets. They shot a lot of threes with the Bucks. If I were them, I would kind of stick with the same game plan. I don't know. I just like Amir said, the perimeter defense for the Heat are so good. Look at the players on there. You have Tucker, you have Oladipo coming off the bench, you have Butler, you have Bam who can guard on the perimeter too. Like, they're quick lateral movement wise. Like, I just think it's going to be really hard for the Celtics to get a decent shot, whether they're driving in or if they're taking a 3-point, you know what I mean? Or a 3-point shot. But like, I think the plan for them is, because when you had, if it was the Bucks, it would have been like, oh, let's just double or triple Giannis, let him dish out, let those other players score. Now you kind of have to focus on 2 players a bit here, mostly Tatum, but then you have like Brown, right? I feel like Brown drives a little bit more. He might be a little more physical than Tatum, but it's like, I think the game plan's gonna be like drive and dish type of thing, hit some threes if they can. And I kind of want to see the matchup also with Bam and Grant Williams too. I want to see how they, if they're going to guard each other, but I kind of want to see that matchup a little bit. I still think Bam's the better player, but like offensively, Amir, I don't know, if Bam shoots a lot of threes? I don't think he does, right? And then like you have
No,
Grant.
he doesn't shoot at all.
Yeah, so like Grant Williams might draw him out a bit if he's going to be guarding him, or if you're going to put a PJ Tucker on him.
No.
And then
Yeah.
is Robert Williams? I'm guessing he's going to come back because he was available for the game
He should
7,
be
right?
back.
So
I expect him to play.
yeah, so like the Celtics are going to have some type of defensive presence in the key too, right? And he's not slow for a big man. He has some movement, like speed to him. He's pretty quick. So like, it depends. I still think the Heat are going to win the series overall, but like, I just think they're just built better, and it's going to come down to coaching too, I think, right? Udoka is not, I don't know how well he is. Like, I don't know his history as far as coaching goes, like besides this team, but like Spo, like, like he's coached great players, great teams. Like, he has schemes. He can adjust well mid game. You know what I mean? Like, I just think, I don't know.
It's going to be a very defensive series. I think
Yeah.
these guys are going to struggle to get up to 100 because both teams are great defensively. I think it'll probably be a like slower pace series. And to your point, yeah, Spo is a great coach. Ime was an assistant for the Nets last year. So he does have playoff experience, but not at this level in terms of being the head coach. And I'm really excited to see the Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum matchup because I feel like they're on the same level. They're trying to kind of break into the very top tier of players in this league. And they're both looking for their first championship. Butler was just in the finals 2 years ago. Tatum wants to get there for the first time. And I figure they're going to be guarding each other quite frequently. And they're the clear #1 options for their teams. I'm just really stoked on this matchup because Jimmy has been playing incredibly well. And he hasn't really been getting his due, I think.
Yeah, agree.
He is definitely not. As a Heat fan,
yeah, I mean,
I
you were
think-
telling me this all the time. As soon as the Sixers series was over, the entire narrative discussion was about how the Sixers choked, how Harden didn't show up, and Embiid was injured. there was no discussion about what the Heat did to disrupt their flow. And I think they kind of thrive in that position.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they just go to work, right? They just go back to work and they scheme and they come up with different game plans on a different night. Like they don't run the same thing defensively necessarily the same night if they did the night before, right? Like there's some games where Spo will throw out some zone, to disrupt a
He did
team's
that in
rhythm.
Game 6 against Philly.
Yeah, and he didn't do that in game 5. He didn't do that in game 4. He might have done it like in game 1 or 2, but like he doesn't try to replicate, the same schemes defensively. So yeah, I'm excited for this matchup. It's definitely going to be a defensive battle, but yeah, we're underdogs. We're the number 1 seed. I think Vegas has us like as dogs, right? I think both Celtics are like minus 165 to win the series. So we never get credit. It's just again it's Embiid's injured. Harden hasn't showed up, or Harden had that one great game where he had like 6 for 10 on threes, like his one good shooting game of the playoffs. And it's like James Harden's back, yada yada yada. Like there's no narrative of like Jimmy Butler's like the 3rd leading scorer behind like Giannis and Luka, right? And they're both like 26 and 23, and Jimmy's like 32, like still in his prime, but like nearing the outside of his prime, right? He's got like a couple good years left. Like these other 2 guys are like the future of the NBA and the rising superstars. And so like he's still averaging close to almost 30 points a game, like on 50% shooting, barely any turnovers as well. So yeah, I'm excited. I in terms of my prediction, I think biased prediction will be the Heat in 6.
Agree. Heat in 6 for sure.
Heat in 6. I think realistically, it's going to be Heat in 7.
Yeah.
Because we haven't lost. Us and the Warriors are the only 2 undefeated home teams, and so we played really hard, and we didn't sit our team and try to avoid the Nets, because the Nets, were going to be in the play-in, the number 7 or 8th seed. There's a lot of talk about, do we just like lose on purpose and tank so we don't get the 1 seed? But we played for that, and that's going to be huge when it comes to this Eastern Conference Finals, is that we're going to get 4 games potentially. Hopefully
that might have
not.
been the difference in the Boston-Milwaukee series, because on the last day of the season, they had the same record, and Milwaukee sat their players so that they would play Chicago in the first round. But that cost them home court advantage against Boston, so they didn't have the game 7 at home.
Right. Yeah, home court's huge in the playoffs, as we can tell, especially, which I want to obviously transition to the Dallas and Suns game 7, which was unbelievable, ridiculous, amazing. Yeah, like just no home in that series. No team lost no team won on the road, right? It was the home team won every game, and that's because role players, scrubs, typically play better and shoot better at home, right? And that's what I'm excited about this opportunity for the Heat, and having that home court advantage, is that our guys shoot clearly better at home as well. So I'm excited for that. But let's transition to that Dallas and Suns game.
Lots to talk about with that one.
Speechless on that. So Panos, let's start off with you, man. What was your take? I know you didn't watch the entirety of the game. I don't think a lot of people watched that. I stopped pretty much at the beginning of the 3rd quarter. I had it on my TV in the background, but I wasn't really paying any attention. I think post 8 minutes left in the 3rd quarter, because that was when the game was
like
absolutely over.
At that point.
Exactly.
It almost hit 50. I think it hit 46 points at one point, but I was like, holy crap.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what was the score at halftime again? They were up 30 at halftime. And then I think they went on an 8-0 run. And then it was like 10-2 run to jump it up into like the 40s
Luka was
immediately.
tied with Phoenix at halftime.
Yeah. It's insane, man. 35. He finished with 35, 10 and 4. I mean, did he even play the 4th quarter? I don't know. Like,
no, because then you get an injury and
yeah, right.
You're kicking yourself for playing him when you're up 30.
Yeah, I don't think Luka played even at the end of the 3rd. I think they took him out with like 3 minutes to go and like never came back in. But yeah, at one point at halftime, again, it was 27 to whatever the heck
27 to 57.
30-point lead, 27 to 57, and Luka had 27. They had 27, but also with about 9 minutes or so to go in the 3rd quarter, at one point Luka hit a step back 3, nothing but net, and he had 30 points to the Suns It was 60-27. So Luka literally had 30
Jesus
points to the
Christ.
Suns 27. He was outscoring the entire team
I don't know.
with 10 minutes to go in the third quarter, right?
That is
It's unreal.
That's it. That is unreal. Didn't we all
we were talking about the possibility of Luka going supernova, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, he
It
did.
started right from the jump.
So
He scored the first 8 points of the game. The Mavericks
Yep.
were up 8-0, and Phoenix did not recover. I mean, they played so badly. That's like one of the worst performances I've ever seen from a top seeded team at home in a game 7.
game 7 is
I mean-
like the key word right there. Like, I don't think anybody's ever like shit the bed that bad
Yeah.
at home as the number 1 seed in a game 7, right? Like, just unreal.
I've never seen it, but you guys saw like when he finally got help, right? On the road. Dinwiddie showed up. 30
Dinwiddie
points.
was great.
Yeah.
Dallas got out to around a 10-point lead. They put Luka on the bench, and you're just thinking, just keep the lead at 10. Just tread water, let Luka get some rest. But then the bench came in, just steadily increased the lead. Dinwiddie got going. We've talked about how role players, they typically struggle on the road, but Dinwiddie really stepped up. I think he had 21 at halftime to join Luka. I mean, it was impressive to watch.
He did. I was saying if it was Spencer Dinwiddie versus the entire Suns team, it's 21-7. He's only down 6. That's literally Spencer Dinwiddie almost outscored the Suns by himself as well, right? So impressive help.
I mean, I don't watch all of it, but like what happened with him at 27 at half? Like, did the Mavs actually play really good defense, or like did the Suns
It was a
just not
combination.
shoot well?
Like Dallas was on point defensively, but Phoenix just did not bring the fight whatsoever.
I mean, I saw
They were
Booker
just
was like,
not in the game mentally.
see, I saw like Booker's stats. It was like 3 for 14. Aiden was 2 for 5. Didn't we say the other day that they need to feed Aiden the ball? And like, I feel like
First chance he got, he just misses a bunny, and
Yeah.
it was that kind of day for Phoenix. I mean,
yeah,
Chris Paul and Devin Booker did not make a shot in the first half. I mean, are you kidding me? Like,
no excuse. Like, you're the superstar, right? You
Devin
need to-
Booker is supposed to be on the tier of like Jimmy Butler and Jason Tatum, right? We're talking about him with that
Yeah.
kind of stature as like a top 10, top 15 kind of player.
yeah,
You
top 10
can't
to 20.
you can't put up a bagel in the first half of a game 7. That's unacceptable. That's going to be hard to rebound from, because now Phoenix has like a huge offseason in front of them. They have to decide if they want to pay Ayton the max. I mean, how many years does Chris Paul have left? Phoenix is actually in a pretty difficult position moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, Aiden
Yeah.
right now, like from what he did in the playoffs, performance-wise, like I don't think he's worth a max, dude. Like, do you guys think he's worth a max?
I don't think so. I couldn't give him the max.
I don't think so, but I think he's probably going to get it still. It's
Someone's going to pay him the max. That's the
he's
thing.
23. He's like
I mean-
7, almost 7 foot, 260-pound
Yeah.
center. He
The game
has
is
the
moving
ability,
away from those kind of players.
but he has the ability.
It's
to
just been
shoot.
really
He can hit the-
interesting. It's been interesting to see how Jokic was bounced early, Embiid was bounced early. Aiden is proving to be ineffective in this series when it matters most. These centers, it doesn't seem like it's something worth investing in, because what Dallas was doing, they were playing the 5-out strategy. You give Luka the ball, he'll drive into the paint, and then you got 4 shooters around him who are ready to go.
Yeah,
And
that's a
that-
good point.
And they're just getting played off the court.
That's a hot take there.
I like it.
Oh, I mean, Jokic, the MVP. I mean, come on. Jamal Murray is out.
Yeah, I mean,
Porter's
he
out,
gets a
like-
pass. He gets a pass. I mean,
And also, he can play from anywhere. He could pass. He's such a maestro when it comes to passing. He's obviously, I think he's a better passer
Yeah.
than Luka. Like, he can get
Yeah,
4 guys
yeah.
around him and find shots for his team. Like, again, Barton, setting up Barton, Morris, like he was setting up his teammates. Just he didn't have enough firepower with him because, again, Jamal Murray starting point guard and Porter starting small
let's
forward.
play like the 3. Yeah,
I was gonna say shooting guard. I was like trying to, I was having trouble, but yeah, it's like a 3. They're starting 3, 4 and point guard or out, and he was getting like 30 points a game, dominating. He just needed some support. He's on the wrong team. Like I feel bad for him. He needs like an actual second star. Like Jamal Murray is not going to cut it. I don't think.
You don't think
he
so?
needs to, no, he needs like
No.
a Dame. He needs like a Dame or like even like a McCollum, man. like a CJ McCollum type guy, like even a Mitchell. Well, I mean, just someone who
I
can
don't
get
think there's like a huge difference between McCollum and Murray. I put them in the same level.
I agree. Yeah, I could see that.
We
Maybe
need to see what Jamal Murray looks like when he gets back from injury.
That's
True.
fair, but
We can't really make any determinations on what this team is right now. So I'm willing to give Jokic a pass, but in terms of Embiid and Aiden and Gobert, they haven't really thrived in the playoffs. Like the teams that are advancing are using their wing players.
I don't know with the Embiid situation though. Like he, honestly, I think he plays pretty well for today's NBA. He can drive, he can shoot threes. Like same with Jokic, right? But I feel like with Embiid situation, that team they need to make some adjustments during the offseason because with James Harden, I mean that's just like a train wreck right there with everything going on in Philly. But I mean, yeah, that was just.
He's going to opt into his contract, and then Philly will run it back for one more year. But it seems like it's pretty clear that the conference semis is their ceiling.
right. They haven't got to the Eastern Conference Finals once yet, right? With Embiid as their best player. I mean, he's kind of like Anthony Davis. He's like, he gets hurt more so in freak accidents. I feel like recently, like, I feel like his knees have gotten a lot better, right? Like his first few years, I think he had always had like lower extremity kind of issues. And then this is like a freak elbow to the face. And he's had that twice now, right? Broken orbital. The thumb, I mean, that I don't know how he tore the ligaments in the thumb, but I mean, it makes sense. A lot of basketball players get thumb injuries, right? So it's good to see him away.
If you look at the 4 teams that are left, who are their bigs? Like Dallas, we're talking about Maxi Kleber, Dwight Powell. Golden State, they're using the death lineup with like Draymond as their big.
Sometimes
Miami has like Bam Adebayo. Celtics have Time Lord, Al Horford.
Deadman.
Yeah, I mean, Deadman's like a bit player, right? So none of these teams are really relying on any kind of presence inside too much.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Bunch of small ball.
And I just got to give Dallas a lot of credit defensively. This team has turned around its entire identity. And I think it's because of Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd deserves 100%. A lot of respect for what he's done with this team, because last year, this was not a good defensive team, and they pretty much ran it back with the same roster. They got rid of Porzingis, which is another topic of discussion, because when they made that trade, I just thought it wouldn't move the needle. Like you bring in Bertans, you bring in Dinwiddie, you get rid of Porzingis, but that seems to be a big addition by subtraction for Dallas. And then you pair that with a renewed focus defensively, and then you ride Luka's brilliance, and now they're 1 series away from the finals.
Yeah, I didn't think that trade was good at all for Dallas, and it worked out in their favor somehow.
Yeah, I mean, Spencer Dinwiddie was good in the regular season. He had an okay series against Utah, and he was missing for the first 6 games against Phoenix, but he completely redeemed himself today.
Oh yeah,
right. It's all it takes sometimes. Just,
I mean, if you come up with what matters most, we'll forgive a lot.
Exactly.
One shot.
If you had one shot.
How do you guys look at this Dallas matchup with Golden State?
Maybe you can take that for. I don't know how to answer that.
I think Dallas has a chance. I think they can make this a lengthy series. I think they could even win.
Really?
Because I think they're going to muck it up. And, you know, Golden State, they want to get out and run. They want to hit their threes. But if Dallas can lock in defensively the way that they did to Phoenix, this could be a challenge for Golden State. We could see a 6-7 game series very easily. What do you think, Amir?
I think the Warriors are going to win in 7.
They should be the favorite. I'll give you that. But
they just haven't been shooting that well, and I don't think it's going to continue. Like Steph hasn't been shooting at a high clip. Clay has been inconsistent. Jordan Poole has become more inconsistent this last round versus the first round.
Series against the Grizzlies like he did against Denver.
It wasn't a bad series, but yeah, he wasn't averaging like 22 a game or so. It was like more like 12, 13. But still like below his season average numbers, right? So and they get a lot of good looks, right? Draymond's like one of the best maestros quarterbacks, like point forwards that we have in the game, right? Like his connection and chemistry with Steph, especially Steph, and obviously with Clay, you can get those guys so open, not only from just a direct assist, but like through hockey assists, like so I just feel like Dallas's defense has definitely stepped up, so that could give them trouble as long as they can get their hand up and not give them like very easy open shots. Um, Dallas could make this a longer series, but I still don't think that the Warriors are going to shoot as bad as they did in the last series. I think it's going to improve drastically. I feel like Steph was shooting like in the 30s, Clay into like the 30s.
He had
like
some bad games in the Memphis series,
right? So I feel like, and they have more depth, as well, especially with Poole emerging, as a young scorer. Andrew Wiggins, I mean, he's hit or miss, but he's still consistently going to help them get like 14 points. He's a long, he's a pretty good defender. He can get some rebounds. Otto Porter, if he comes back, I think he was injured for a game or so. Like another good player when healthy, role player specifically off the bench. They're pretty deep. They're not a big team either, but neither is Dallas. So again, it just comes down to the guard play. Like, can the defense hold Clay and Steph below 40% again to make them human, right? Because like if Steph's shooting 44% from three on average this series, it's over for the most part. Clay, if he's shooting 40%, like it's hard. Those guys are going to give you like 50 points a night together if they're shooting in that range. And then of course now they have enough firepower, Jordan Poole again, and Wiggins and a few others to, get some points for them. But again, Dallas, the defense has stepped up in a big way, but again, they have Luka, who's like emerging as like one of the best players in the playoffs. He may be the best player left in the playoffs now that
I think you have to say that.
Right,
he's the best player left right now.
So does he go like Super Saiyan and like go insane like for this entire series and like somehow pull it off? It's possible.
Because who on Golden State is going to guard him?
Right, no one. Who's going to guard any superstar?
Honestly, I think
As
maybe
we've said
Draymond's
before.
going to have that role, no?
But Draymond's not going to. I mean, Draymond's going to stop him, but like again, it's just
Luka's going to get
he's
that superstar
unguardable.
treatment. Yeah, it's like
he's unguardable. He did a post up move on DeAndre Ayton today.
I saw that.
He pulled out the Dirk one-legged fadeaway
at the top of the free throw line. He started backing him
just
down,
dirty,
and then he did a turnaround 1 foot fadeaway and sunk it. And like he's just playing leverage, like kind of like reverse pulling the chair. Like if he didn't do that fadeaway, the next time if he was going to do that again the next play, he was going to spin off of him, right?
And get a layup
as DeAndre's leaning on him, right? Like he would have done like a up and under scoop kind of thing, like he did with I think it was like Cam Johnson last game. There's like some ridiculous highlight.
Yeah, it was Cam Johnson.
Where he did like a fadeaway, a fake fadeaway, an up and under, and like and one. So yeah, I mean, what do we predict yesterday? Literally, we all predicted
wanted the Suns.
We all said the Suns.
Yeah, but we wanted the Mavs.
And we said except for what?
Yeah, I think this is great for the league.
Oh, unless Luka goes super insane and
what do we say?
Supernova
goes nuclear, goes crazy. That's like we all said it's capable. Neil said, what do stars do? They come to play. They'll get theirs.
Yeah.
As long as Booker and CP3 don't show up.
Apparently not. Yeah, apparently not all stars come to play because Booker and CP3 were MIA today.
Yeah, that was rough.
Let me ask you this, Neil. What do you think about the budding rivalry that developed between Luka and Devin Booker, right? I think there's a little animosity with I didn't realize you said it, I think it was in game 2. CP3 and Booker were mocking him and there's memes and all this stuff. And obviously they're fouling each other pretty hard. It felt like, games 4, 5, 6. So
what are your thoughts on that? It's great to see because they're similarly, like they're similar age. They both want the same thing. They went after it for 7 games. And that's going to build up animosity and neither one's going anywhere. So I think this is great for the league because Dallas hadn't won a playoff series in over a decade. Now they're in the Western Conference Finals. They were a 4 seed. They traded their supposed second best player in the middle of the season. And Luka, it doesn't matter because he's just stepping up to a ridiculous degree. So I think it's great for the league that Dallas pulled off this upset, personally. And the rivalry between Booker and Luka is decidedly in Luka's favor right now.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I would say so. I mean, let's just say this: Devin Booker made 3 field goals tonight. He only made 3 more field goals than I did, right? In a NBA Game 7 home playoff game, right? For a budding all-star. I can't believe he literally made 3 field goals, 11 points, 5 of those were from the free throw line. Like, you can't go 3 for 14 at home.
Yeah, Phoenix just seemed like the ultimate front runner. Like when they're winning, things are good. You can kind of put things on autopilot. But then when they got punched in the face, they just did not bring the fight. It was really shocking to see.
Yeah, and as we know with sports, anything's possible, right? As our brother Kevin Garnett has once said, anything's possible. Like, I did not expect this, honestly, and I mean that's why I love sports, because anything can happen on a given night, right? I mean, Memphis did this to the Warriors in that game 6, but again, the magnitude of that game was not the same, right? Like, so completely different context. But the games felt similar in a sense, right? Like, just you don't expect to see 50-point blowouts in the playoffs, right? When teams are supposed to be the most competitive. So, but anyway, Panos, I know you dodged it when Neil asked, but like, what's your prediction for this Western Conference Finals? I said Warriors in 7. What do you think, Panos?
I don't know. I mean, on paper, obviously, not even on paper, like the Warriors should win the series. I mean, you have Clay, you have Steph, you have Poole. Who else is there? Like Draymond, he's not a scorer, but he's a good facilitator. He's a good
He's like the heart of that team.
Exactly. And then you have, who else is there? Like Andrew Wiggins. I mean, he can go off on a scoring night, a good scoring night, but I think he's going to be more important on the defensive end. He is a good defensive player too. But like, they should win the series. But again, like with Luka, you don't know, man, because he thrives in those type of big games. And like, they're in the Western Conference Finals. It's like, and it's all, yes, he had some help tonight, but like literally, Luka has been dominating this playoffs from the start. He's averaging like 30 plus 9-9 his playoff career. Like, it's kind of hard to bet against them right now. You know what I mean? Like, I would love to see the Mavs go to the finals. Don't get me wrong. It'd be pretty cool for Luka and his legacy and what he's going to do like in the future too. But like, it's going to be really hard to maintain Steph, maintain Clay. Like Amir said, if they're shooting like 40% or above, it's like, it's done. Forget about it. And it's not only them you have to worry about. Like, I feel like you have to worry about their bench too, right? It doesn't Poole come off the bench too. Like he's a good third scoring option.
I think it's a starter now. I think
that
was
is he starter.
Yeah, I think that was last year.
But like, yeah, they have too many options on offense too. It's kind of crazy. And if Kaminga's gonna get some run in it too, like, yeah, he's a rookie, but like he's all energy too. So it just depends, man. I don't know, but I want the Mavs. Like we'll do like what we did with Phoenix. I want the Mavs, but I feel like the Suns are gonna win.
Our Warriors.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the Warriors are gonna win. I want to say 6, but because it's the NBA and you know how the NBA is with the officiating, I feel like it's going to go 7 Warriors. But I wouldn't be surprised if Luka did win, if the Mavs did win and go to the finals. I wouldn't. So
I wouldn't be surprised if the Mavs won in 7. I wouldn't be surprised if the Warriors won in 5.
Exactly.
You never know.
Yeah, it could be a competitive 5-game series.
As rigged as we think the NBA is sometimes with like the shitty calls that refs make, like they can't control who makes shots you know what I mean? Like they can sway the game and change momentum here and there. But like if you're making buckets, you're making buckets, right? So
are we saying in this series? I mean, I think so, right? We're all saying that Luka's the best player in this series right now. In this matchup, like
I would say that, yeah, I think so.
I'd say,
or are we saying
Curry has the potential to outproduce him, but at this point in time, I think Luka's playing better.
Luka's playing better. I mean, he's 20.
But Curry does have another gear he can get to, and it remains to be seen if he can find it.
Go ahead. The thing about Luka, though, is there's more dimensions because of his size versus like a Curry, because he can't shoot as good as Curry does, but obviously he's still pretty good 3-point shooter. But he's a 3-level scorer. So is Curry, but like he can also score by putting his head down and driving, but he could also score by posting up or fading away. Like he has size and
Yeah.
youth compared to Curry. So like, I don't think he's like that much farther ahead of him generally, right? Because Steph is still in his prime. Steph's like 32, right? He's not that old, and like his game is gonna last. You know, the way he plays, he's not gonna run around as much, but he's still gonna be able to be a little
Yeah, but
shifty, get his shots.
Yeah.
If Doncic is struggling from the outside, he can still find other ways to score. But if Curry's shot isn't falling, his production tends to suffer more because of it than it would for Doncic.
Right, because in a weird way, you can give him like a little bit of space, like the tiniest amount of breathing room, so that he doesn't have to step on you because he's still quick enough to like get by people. He's not washed like my friend James Harden, right? Or it's like he can't get by people anymore. You couldn't get by Max Strus, which I love to throw out there because the media was calling him Max Struss. Can't even say his name, and Harden can't even get by a former D2 player. But Steph can. You're right, and if he's missing some shots, like I don't think anybody like wants to give him room, but you could sacrifice a tiny, I mean like centimeters maybe, right? Or millimeters. I think this is way more than centimeters, but it's just if he's not making a shot, he's not as consistent like in terms of getting to the rack, right? Because they're not honoring it as much. It's harder for him to blow by people. Because I mean, he is still 32, right? He's not 22 anymore. So Steph was getting by people, I felt like a lot more effortlessly in the past. But yeah, it's gonna be exciting. Neil, I don't think you've given your prediction yet. What do you think the
I'm
outcome of the
going
series
to
is
go
gonna
with
be?
Dallas in 7.
Nice.
Ooh,
I'm gonna try to call the upset right here.
do you mean that to be
Would it
Yeah,
really be an
because
upset?
I think Dallas's defense presents an interesting wrinkle to this series. There's a couple other things about Dallas. They don't turn the ball over. And as long as they don't turn the ball over, then you're not going to get Golden State out in transition where they can get those sort of onslaughts of trades from the outside. So if they can take care of the ball and they can win the rebounding battle, I think their defense will make Golden State have to methodically break them down in the half court. And then you got Luka. I'm gonna keep riding with Luka. I think they take it in 7.
I like it. I mean, I want to see them win. So
It's going to be a hell of a series because they're really interesting contrasts because Dallas is going to try to slow the game down and Golden State's going to want to get out in transition, force turnovers, get those open threes. And it's going to be whether or not they can hang on to the ball and rebound.
it's going to be interesting to see what the role players do as well with the Mavs. I want to see can Dinwiddie do what he did tonight? Not obviously 30 points a game or something, but like, can the bench like produce? Is Brunson going to show up? Like, I kind of want to see how it plays out because everyone knows Luka's going to get his all the time, so it doesn't matter. It's going to be interesting to see this series. Actually, can't wait.
I do remember one game during the regular season between these two. Golden State was up 20 in the fourth quarter, and Dallas actually came back to win when they just pretty much suffocated Golden State's offense in the fourth quarter. So I think Dallas does know what they need to do. They have a game plan that they can execute. And as long as they don't turn the ball over and give Golden State easy possessions, they can play the game at their pace, which will make things difficult for Golden State as we kind of get to the later stages of the series.
Makes sense. Well, guys, that was fun. Happy to have hopped on with you guys again to chat more about some basketball. So some fun games today that we got to witness, and excited to see these matchups, start next week. I know the Heat game against the Celtics is starting on Tuesday. I'm assuming this Western Conference Finals is probably going to start on Wednesday. I'm assuming maybe give them an
game
extra day.
On Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday.
And then the draft lottery is on Tuesday also.
Yeah, it is.
Is it? Okay, nice. I don't even know if Miami has a pick anymore.
They used them all to get Kyle Lowry and Jimmy.
Definitely for Lowry. That's why we haven't had a pick in the last couple years.
Still blown away that game 7, both of them in the blowout.
Yeah, especially the Dallas Phoenix game.
Amazing. So yeah, next week we're gonna have some more games that we're gonna definitely want to talk about and some recaps and predictions. So
we'll be able to know how these series are sort of going, what the trajectory they're taking.
Exactly. So I think the plan
the rest of the series. Yeah.
yeah, so the plan is to get together again sometime next week, and yeah, really excited to chat again soon. Really excited for the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. So thanks again for the time, guys, and thanks everybody for watching. So don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. So thanks.
It's been fun.
Likewise, guys.
All right.